The room was large and full of noise. Merchants, traders, and aliens of all shapes and colors moved around. Loud voices echoed as items were bought and sold. But when the next item was brought to the stage, everything went quiet. It was not a weapon, not a rare crystal, not even a rare beast. It was a woman, an alien woman. She had purple skin, thin arms, and a deep scar across her neck. Her eyes were hollow, like she had forgotten how to cry. In her arms, she held a baby wrapped in torn cloth. Next item. The auctioneer shouted, trying to sound excited. One adult female, part of the Serani species, healthy enough, comes with a child, both for the price of one. No one moved, no one said a word. The auctioneer waited, then forced a smile. Come on, people. It's a rare offer, a whole pair, dirt cheap. Still, silence. The woman looked down, not at the crowd but at her child. The baby was silent too, small eyes blinking slowly. They both looked like they were already gone inside, like they were shadows, not people. She's too thin, someone whispered. She looks broken, said another. Probably trouble. No thanks, grunted a third voice. Minutes passed. The auctioneer started to sweat. This is a one-time deal, he said, trying again. But even he knew the truth. No one wanted her. Then from the back of the hall, a voice spoke, calm but loud enough. I'll take her. Heads turned. A human man stepped forward. He looked simple, no fancy clothes, no big weapon on his back, just calm eyes and steady steps. The auctioneer blinked, surprised. Sir, you're serious? The human nodded. He reached into his pocket and placed the credit chip on the table. Give me the paper. She's mine now, he said. People whispered all around. Why would a human want her? He must be mad. She's cursed. The auctioneer shrugged and handed over the papers. All right then, she's yours. The human walked to the stage. He looked at the alien mother and offered his hand. She did not take it. She stood. Slowly, weakly, like she hadn't stood in days. Her eyes met his, and for a brief second, something flickered inside them. But then she looked away, holding her baby tightly. He didn't force her. He just nodded and walked beside her. The crowd moved away as they passed, like they didn't want to touch her. But the human stayed close, outside the auction hall. The light was bright and warm. The alien mother squinted, then looked down at her child again. The baby made a small noise, barely a sound, but the first one since the auction began. The human led them to a small hover cart. He opened the door and helped her inside. She sat without speaking, her arms wrapped around the baby like armor. My name's Elias, he said as he started the cart. I don't know yours, but that's okay. She didn't answer, not a word, not even a glance. Elias drove slowly through the city, past bright buildings and busy streets. He didn't look at her too much, but he kept checking the rear mirror to make sure she was all right. He took her to a quiet place at the edge of town. A small house, simple but clean. He opened the door and stepped aside. You can stay here, he said softly. There's food, clean clothes, a warm bed. She stood still for a moment, then walked in slowly, her steps unsure. She looked around, holding the baby close. There were no chains here. No guards, no cold floors, just quiet. Elias watched her from the door. He didn't try to speak again. He just said one last thing. You're not a thing, not an item, not for sale anymore. The alien mother turned slightly at those words. Her eyes looked different, like maybe, just maybe, she was still alive inside. Then she walked into the room, closed the door behind her, and sat with her child, silent, but no longer invisible, and outside. Elias sat by the window, watching the stars, knowing something had just begun. Something that no one else saw, but he did. She didn't speak, not even once. Days passed, but not a single word left her lips. She stayed in the small room Elias gave her. She only came out to get food for her baby. Even then, she never looked him in the eyes. Elias didn't push her. He left fresh water, simple meals, and soft blankets at her door every morning. She took them without a sound. He knew she had been through something terrible, something that broke her from the inside. Sometimes at night, he heard her cry softly, not loud sobs, just the quiet pain of someone trying not to wake the world. Her baby cried too, but she always calmed him with a hum. It was the only sound she made, a strange tune, soft and broken. Elias often sat near the door, just listening. He didn't know what the tune meant, but he knew it came from a place of deep sadness. He tried to talk a few times, just to let her know he was there. He told her his name again, told her she could ask for anything, told her the place was safe. She said nothing, not even a nod. He started writing short notes and leaving them under her food tray, simple messages. "Good morning. Hope the baby is okay. Tell me if you need help." No answer came, but he noticed one day the tray had been cleaned more neatly. Another day, she folded the blanket and placed it back outside. She didn't trust him yet, but maybe. She didn't fear him either. One afternoon, Elias saw her outside for the first time. She stood near the back door, holding the baby to her chest. She didn't move much, just looked at the sky. The sun touched her face, and for a moment, she closed her eyes like she was trying to remember what warmth felt like. He didn't speak to her. He just watched quietly from a distance. She stayed out for only a minute, then went back inside. But the next day, she stayed out longer. The baby began to respond to Elias's voice. Whenever he spoke nearby, the child would turn his head. He even reached his tiny hand toward him once. The mother noticed and gently pulled the baby back, but she didn't hide her face this time. She looked at Elias for 1 second, then looked away. That night, Elias placed a soft toy near the door. It was small, shaped like a blue animal from Earth. He didn't know if she would accept it, but in the morning, the toy was gone, and a tiny handprint was left on the windowsill. One evening, a storm came. Thunder rolled across the sky, and wind howled through the trees. The lights flickered, then died. Elias lit a small lantern and checked each room. When he came near her door, he heard the baby crying louder than usual. Without thinking, he knocked gently. "Are you both okay?" he asked. No answer came, but the door creaked open slowly. She stood there, her face pale in the dim light. She didn't speak, but she stepped aside, letting him in for the first time. The baby was sick, sweating and weak. Elias rushed to get some supplies and returned with medicine. He knelt beside them, checked the child's temperature, and whispered softly, "He has a fever, but he'll be okay." She held the baby tightly, her hands shaking. Tears fell from her eyes, and for the first time, she didn't turn away from him. Elias handed her a cloth to cool the baby's head. She took it with trembling fingers. Hours passed as the storm raged. Elias stayed in the room. Sitting on the floor near them, the baby finally stopped crying and slept in her arms. She looked at Elias, eyes full of something he couldn't read, and then her lips moved. A whisper, broken and soft, came out. "Why did you take us?" Elias blinked, surprised. Her voice was quiet but clear. He smiled gently. "Because no one else did," he said, "and because no one should be thrown away like that." She looked down, holding the baby close again. She didn't say more, but something had changed. She had spoken, and now the silence was broken. She didn't know why she asked that question. It had slipped from her mouth before her mind could stop it. But after hearing his answer, she felt something strange in her chest, like a locked door had cracked open just a little. "Still," she said. Nothing else. She watched Elias as he stayed up all night, checking the baby, feeding the fire, bringing warm towels without asking. By morning, the fever was gone. The baby opened his eyes and reached out his hand. Not to her this time, but to Elias, and Elias smiled and let the small hand touch his finger. That was the moment something shifted in her heart. This man wasn't pretending. He wasn't acting. He simply cared. When Elias left the room to prepare food, she looked down at her child. She whispered something in her native language, words no human could understand. but the baby looked up at her and smiled like he understood everything. Later that day, Elias stood by the table, holding a data pad. "I want to take you both to the doctor," he said gently. She looked at him but didn't speak. "You don't have to talk." He added quickly, "But I want to make sure your child is truly okay." She paused, then gave a slow, small nod. It was her first time agreeing to anything. He smiled and tapped on the pad, arranging transport. The clinic was quiet when they arrived. Most people didn't visit this far from the main city. A soft-voiced nurse scanned them in, then led them to a clean room. The mother held her child tightly, her eyes on every door and wall. She didn't trust places like this, not after what had been done to her. When the doctor entered, he was old and human. Kind eyes, slow hands, no sudden moves. He greeted Elias first, then looked at her and nodded respectfully. "You don't have to speak," he said calmly. "Just hold the baby still. I'll be gentle." She hesitated, then let the doctor scan the child. The machine beeped, showing energy patterns and organ readings. But when it reached the baby's chest, the screen flashed red. The doctor froze. "What is this?" he whispered. Elias stepped forward. "What's wrong?" The doctor turned the screen toward him. "Your child is healthy, too healthy," he said slowly. "This energy signature, it's rare, ancient, forbidden on some worlds." The mother stood up suddenly, panic flashing in her eyes. She backed away with the baby, shaking her head. "No one will take him," she said, her voice low but sharp. "Not again." Elias raised his hands. "No one's taking him," he said firmly. "Just help us understand." The doctor lowered his voice. "This child has energy from the old core," he said. "It means he was born from someone touched by the forbidden's tech, or maybe something worse." The mother's face went pale. She looked away, holding her child tighter. The doctor looked at Elias with concern. "If anyone finds out, bounty hunters could come, some governments may even try to claim him." Elias stepped between them. "Then we don't tell anyone," he said. "This stays between us." The doctor nodded slowly. "All right," he said. "But be careful. If someone's looking for her, they'll come for the child too." On the way back, she sat quietly in the transport. Elias didn't ask questions. He could see the fear on her face. Not fear for herself, but fear for her baby. When they returned to the house, she stopped at the door. She turned toward him, her eyes finally meeting his for longer than a second. "You still want us here?" she asked, "even after knowing?" Elias didn't even blink. "Yes," he said. "You're not a threat. Your child's not a curse. And I don't care what energy is inside him." She looked at him, stunned. No one had ever said words like that to her. Not in her world, not in her people's eyes. She opened the door and stepped inside. But this time, she left it open behind her. And that night, when Elias passed her room to check the fire, he saw something new. The alien mother and her baby were both asleep on the bed, and resting beside the child's tiny hand was the same soft toy Elias had given them. She had placed it there, not to return it, but to keep it. And outside the small home, far beyond the trees, a dark ship floated silently in the clouds. A scanner blinked once, then again, then locked onto a signal. The child's energy had been noticed. Asterisk, the baby didn't cry that night, but his skin glowed softly under the blanket, like moonlight trapped inside a heartbeat. The alien mother watched him as he slept, her hand never leaving his chest. She was afraid the glow would call them, afraid the ones who hurt her would come back for him. Elias didn't sleep either. He sat near the window, a small pulse rifle resting on the floor beside him. He hadn't used a weapon in years, but tonight felt different. Something told him this peace wouldn't last long. He didn't know what the child was exactly, but he knew the baby was special, not dangerous, not cursed, just rare, and rare things in the galaxy were never left alone. The next morning was too quiet. Even the forest behind the house seemed still. The wind didn't blow, and the birds didn't sing. The mother stepped outside with her baby, her eyes moving quickly across the sky. She felt something in the air, A weight pressing down on her chest, Elias stood by the garden fence, watching her. He didn't ask questions. He didn't offer words, but she walked up to him anyway, holding the child close. "I was born on a station near the edge of the Crimson Rift," she said softly. "My people were not warriors, not rich, not powerful. We worked in silence. Lived in shadows." Elias nodded, letting her speak without pressure. "Then the machines came," she whispered. "They promised us strength, offered us upgrades, said they could protect our kind. But we were lied to. They took our bodies, rewired our children, and when we resisted, they branded us cursed." Elias clenched his jaw. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "My son," she said, looking down at the baby. "He was born with the tech still inside me. They called him a mistake, an error. They took him from me." Her hands shook. "I got him back," she said, her voice breaking. "I ran, I hid, but I know they're still looking." Elias looked at the baby, who was now staring up at the trees like he saw something beyond the leaves. He reached out a hand and touched Elias's arm, and for a split second, Elias felt a small pulse, like a spark of light ran through his veins. "He's powerful," Elias said, more to himself than her. "But he's still just a baby." She nodded. "And he needs a home," she whispered. "A real one." That evening, Elias set up a jammer near the house. It wasn't strong, but it would stop low-level scans for a while. He also placed motion sensors near the fence and charged the old drone he used for repairs. He wasn't a soldier anymore, but he hadn't forgotten how to protect the weak. As the sun dropped behind the hills, the mother stood on the porch, her baby resting on her shoulder for the first time. She looked peaceful, like maybe this place could really be safe. But peace doesn't last long in the outer rim. The drone beeped once, then twice, then it went silent. Elias stepped out, eyes locked on the forest. Something was moving in the trees, slow and careful. Not an animal, not a lost traveler. Too quiet, too smooth. He raised the rifle and stepped in front of the porch. "Go inside," he said to her. She didn't argue this time. She turned and slipped back into the house, locking the door behind her. Then came the voice, sharp, cold, and smooth like metal. "You have something that does not belong to you." A tall figure stepped out of the trees. Half flesh, half machine, glowing eyes, armor that hummed with silent power. A hunter. "I have no idea what you're talking about," Elias replied, his finger near the trigger. "The Serani female and her hybrid offspring," the hunter said calmly. "They are marked for retrieval. Surrender them and be spared." Elias didn't move. "She's not a thing," he said. "And he's not property." The hunter tilted his head. "You're only human," he said. "One human cannot stop what is coming." Elias narrowed his eyes. "Maybe not," he said. "But this human is enough for tonight." He fired, the rifle lighting up the dark. The hunter jumped back, surprised at the speed. Elias ran toward the trees, drawing fire away from the house. Inside, the mother held her baby tight, tears in her eyes, not because she was afraid, but because someone was finally fighting for them. And outside, in the shadows of the forest, one human stood between them and the past that refused to die. The air burned with light as the hunter's plasma blades sliced through trees. Elias rolled behind a rock, breathing hard, his rifle smoking from the last burst. The machine was fast, stronger than anything he had faced in years, but Elias had something it didn't, a reason to fight back at the house. The alien mother pressed her hand to the baby's chest. He was glowing again, soft blue light pulsing through his skin. She whispered something in her language. Something ancient, something forbidden, and the baby stopped glowing. He closed his eyes and breathed calmly. She stood up, picked up a small metal disc from her bag, and pressed it to the wall. A shield flickered around the room, a weak but protective dome. She had stolen the device long ago, promised never to use it unless it was life or death. This was that moment. Outside, Elias fired again, aiming at the hunter's shoulder. The shot missed, but it distracted the machine long enough for Elias to sprint toward the trap point. He jumped over the wire, ducked into the trench, and pulled the trigger on the detonator. The explosion lit up the night. Flames rose, smoke clouded the air, and silence followed. Elias didn't wait. He limped back to the house, leg burning from a near hit. When he reached the porch, the door opened. The alien mother stood there, her eyes wide. "You're hurt," she said. He chuckled weakly. "You talked again," he whispered. She pulled him inside and helped him sit. The baby reached out, touching Elias's arm like he wanted to heal him. A small wave of warmth passed through Elias's skin. The pain faded slightly, not gone, but less. Elias looked at her. "That thing out there," he said. "It wasn't the last one, was it?" She shook her head. "No," she said softly. "He was just the scout." Elias leaned back. "I figured," he said. "Then we don't wait here." She looked at him, confused. "We run?" He shook his head. "No, we go somewhere they can't follow, somewhere they wouldn't expect." She hesitated. "There's nowhere safe," she said. "I've tried." "There is," Elias said. "But you'll have to trust me fully now." She held his gaze. In that moment, everything inside her told her not to trust anyone, but something stronger, something quiet and warm pushed her forward. "I trust you," she said. The next morning, Elias activated an old contact, a smuggler from his past life, someone who owed him a favor. They didn't ask questions when he requested a ship with no trace tags and a fast engine. They just sent coordinates. They left the house before sunrise. No goodbyes, no last looks, just a quiet departure into the mist. The baby slept against her chest, the soft toy still clutched in his hand. Elias drove the hovercart across the valley, past old ruins and dead forests. When they reached the drop point, the ship was already there, engines humming low. A tall woman with silver eyes stood beside the ship. She looked at Elias, then at the alien mother and child. "So, this is your ghost," she said with a smirk. "Can you get us to Solus Sector?" Elias asked. She blinked. "That place is a myth," she said. "No trace. No satellites, no beacons." "Exactly," Elias replied. "That's where they'll never look." She stared for a moment, then nodded. "Get on," she said. "But I'm only doing this because you saved my brother's life." Inside the ship, the mother looked around. She had been in many ships before, but never as a passenger. Never as someone being helped, not hunted. She sat down and held the baby close. The engines roared to life as the ship lifted into the sky. She looked down at the world they were leaving. For the first time, she didn't feel fear about what was coming. She felt hope. Elias sat beside her, wincing slightly from his injury. "You okay?" she asked, surprising herself. He smiled. "I've had worse," he said. "But thank you." She looked at him. There was still one question that burned inside her. Why are you really doing all this? Elias didn't answer right away. He looked at the baby, then back at her. And with a quiet voice, he said, "Because no one else would." She nodded. And as the stars came into view, she whispered, "You gave us more than a home." Elias looked at her, puzzled. "What did I give?" She smiled for the first time. "You gave us a name." Asterisk. The stars outside the ship moved like slow rivers of light. The baby watched them with wide eyes, pressing his hand to the window. Every time his fingers touched the glass, a faint shimmer followed, like the stars themselves were answering him back. The alien mother noticed it first. It wasn't just light, it was recognition. The child wasn't just watching the galaxy. He was connected to it somehow. Elias saw it too. He didn't speak, but he watched the shimmer in the glass with a quiet, worried look. He had seen a lot in the galaxy: pirates, warlords, ancient tech, but never a baby who made starlight bend. After hours of travel, the smuggler landed the ship on a hidden moon. No cities, no scanners, no lights, just rock, trees, and sky. A forgotten place, perfect for hiding. They built a small shelter using old supply crates and repurposed parts from the ship. Elias worked fast, but his legs still hurt from the battle. The alien mother tried to help, and for the first time, they built something together. not for survival but for peace. Days passed slowly. The baby didn't speak, but he was always watching. Birds, wind, stars. He followed everything like it whispered secrets to him. And sometimes, when he touched the ground, small blue flowers grew, even in dead soil. One evening, while Elias cleaned his tools, the baby wandered to him and placed a stone in his hand. It was smooth, glowing slightly. Elias blinked, then looked at the child. "Where did you find this?" The mother stepped closer, eyes wide. "That's not a stone," she said. "It's a memory shard." Elias raised an eyebrow. "A what?" "Memory shards grow only near old machine temples," she explained, "places where ancient tech once lived." Elias stood slowly. "There's nothing like that here," he said. "There shouldn't be," she replied. "But he found one." The baby stared at them both, not smiling, just watching. Elias held the shard tightly. "I think it's time you told me everything," he said. She took a deep breath. "There was a time," she began, "when my people worked with machines, not as slaves but as partners. They built things, cities, energy fields, even memory-shaping tech. But then," she continued, "something changed. The machines stopped listening. They grew cold. They began to take, not share." She looked at her child. He was born during the last days of the old world. They called him forbidden because his birth was tied to tech they couldn't understand. But I saw something they didn't. He didn't absorb the tech. He healed it. Elias frowned. "Healed?" She nodded. "He touches broken things and makes them whole again. Not just machines, but earth, energy, even light. He's not a weapon. He's something new." The baby walked over and placed his hand on Elias's injured leg. A soft warmth spread through the skin. The pain faded again, even deeper than before. Elias stared down. "No one can track us here, right?" he asked, still unsure. But the mother didn't answer. She was looking at the sky. Clouds moved unnaturally fast, shadows circling above. Then, without warning, the air turned heavy. A pulse of energy hit the moon's surface, shaking the trees. The smuggler ran out of the shelter. Eyes wide. "We've been found," she shouted. "Someone hacked my nav logs. They're here." Elias grabbed the baby and handed him to the mother. "Go," he said. "Take him into the forest. I'll hold them off." But the child didn't cry. He reached out again, placing his tiny palm on the ground, and the earth responded. Rocks glowed, grass rose, light poured out in slow, perfect waves. From the forest, figures stepped out. Not hunters this time, not soldiers, but machines, ancient, tall, their bodies humming with deep energy. They stopped in front of the baby and knelt. Elias stood frozen. The mother held her breath. The machines weren't attacking. They were bowing. The leader spoke in a voice like thunder wrapped in silk. "You carry the restorer," it said. "The child of core rebirth." Elias stepped forward. "What does that mean?" The machine turned its glowing eyes to him. "It means," it said, "this child does not belong to us, but we belong to him." The forest around them shimmered, and stars above blinked brighter. Elias looked at the mother. She held the child tighter, tears running down her cheeks, not from fear, but from something else, recognition. Her child was no longer hiding from fate. He was walking toward it. The machines stood still like statues made of stars and silence. Their metal forms reflected the moonlight, but their bodies didn't move unless the child moved. And when he took a single step forward, they all shifted slightly, not with threat, but with reverence. Elias could feel it too. The air around the baby was thick with something old. Not danger, not heat, something deeper, like time itself had noticed him. Even the trees around the clearing bowed ever so slightly, as if the moon, the wind, and the ground all knew who he was. The smuggler backed away slowly. She had flown across black holes, traded with outlaws, and laughed in the face of danger. But now she couldn't speak. Her voice was caught between awe and fear. The mother, though, she didn't back away. She stepped forward and knelt beside her son. One hand rested on his small back. Her voice was soft, and it trembled. "You're not alone anymore," she whispered. "They know you. They see you." Lead Machine stepped forward. "We were built by the Corps ages ago," it said. "Left behind when the war ended. Our minds lost in waiting. Until this child awoke our song." Elias frowned. "What do you want from him?" he asked. "He's just a baby," the machine paused. "We want nothing," it said. "We are only tools. But when the restorer touches what is broken, we become whole again." The alien mother stood up. "Then let him be free," she said firmly. "Don't worship him. Don't trap him. Let him live." The machine lowered its head. "He will not be followed," it said. "He will be remembered, protected, and never hunted again." Then the machines turned. One by one, they walked back into the forest, their lights dimming as they faded into the dark. And when the last one disappeared, the forest went still again. No more tremors, no more storms in the sky, just quiet. Elias let out a long breath. "That was something," he muttered. The mother looked at her child. The glow had faded now. He looked like any other baby again, small, warm, innocent. But Elias saw something in her eyes. She wasn't afraid anymore. She was ready. They spent 3 more days on the moon. No machines returned. No ships followed. Just stars above and wind through the trees. On the 4th day, the smuggler returned with supplies. And something else. A document, old-style paper, not digital, no records, no data trail, just ink and name. Elias held it out to the alien mother. Her hands trembled as she took it. She read the name written at the bottom, his last name. "Why?" she asked. "You already saved us," Elias smiled. "Because giving you safety isn't the same as giving you a future," he said. "You deserve to belong somewhere, not just hide." She looked at the baby, then back at the paper. Tears filled her eyes. "I don't have a family name," she whispered. "Now you do," Elias said. "It's mine." She clutched the paper to her chest and nodded, for the first time in her life. She wasn't a number, a slave, or a price tag. She was someone. She had a name. She had a family. They didn't return to crowded cities or bright worlds. They built a quiet life on the edge of stars. Elias taught the boy how to grow food, how to build things, and how to stay kind. The mother taught him songs, stories, and the language of her people. And as the child grew, the light in his hands never stopped. He didn't hide it, but he never used it to harm. He only healed. Sometimes, travelers came seeking help, not knowing the legend, just following stories of a boy who could fix broken hearts and dying lands. And they always left with more than they expected, because when they met him, they met the woman who once stood on a cold auction stage with nothing, and the human who gave her everything. No one made a single offer for the broken alien mother, until one human gave her his last name, and with it, a future, a home, and a new galaxy to call their own.